already.
Oh, yeah, we do a certain amount and then that's, we cut it. Yeah, like probably 120 gallons we would do.
A raw sap.
So that would do 40, so about 3 gallons. So that's got my graph. Free. That be tapping when I'm that hard.
So it is fun. It's a, if you've never done it once, it's something to do.
My wife Pam loved to finish all the syrup. Yeah.
Okay.
Finish my wedding, so she loves it. She'll smell me off, like if I got a work experience, and then she'll take the day and boil it.
There's not too many guys left.
No, because he was doing. He did that too. But my husband did all the.
She had cataract surgery this year. And I had that was gonna.
Way to make a living.
Decide how to do it.
Can we finish it?
We're going by computer, that's fast.
Yeah. Having one more minute.
Not even, or it's cafe time.
I have 59 on the phone. Was that with the computers? It used to think it's digital nowadays. I will call the meeting to order. Notice was posted in accordance to Wisconsin statute 19.84, open meeting law. At this time, would the secretary please read the notice of public hearing?
Notice of public hearing, state of Wisconsin, county of Burnett, Monday, April 6th, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the Burnett County Government Center in room 165, town of Meenan, Siren, Wisconsin, regarding the following. Variance 2601 Huber. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Danby, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Michael and Tony Huber have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To expand the footprint of a structure which is less than 35 feet from the ordinary perimeter line north of the lake at 9903 North Martin Village Road in the RR1 zoning district, lot 3, CM, Summit Lot 3, recorded as document 494549 in Government Lot 1, Section 17, 3817. Variance 26-2. Best. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Union, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Julie Best has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreland Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a garage at a reduced road setback at 27797 Yellow Lake Road in the RR1 zoning district. Lot 2, CSM Volume 3, page 11, and Government Lot 3, Section 254017. Variance 2603, Simonson. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Siren, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Chad and Terry Simonson have made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreland Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a garage at a reduced wetland setback at 24719 Clam Lake Drive in the RR1 zoning district. Lot 1, Twilight Point, Section 2, 3816. Variation 26 Wise. Public notice is hereby given to all persons in the town of Sand Lake, Burnett County, Wisconsin, that Dan Zeppa, on behalf of Andrew Weiss, has made an application relative to a proposal to vary the terms of the Burnett County Land Use and Shoreline Protection Code of Ordinances as follows. To construct a dwelling at a reduced road 5155 State Road, Kimberly, in the RR1 zoning district. Lot 1, CSM Column 3, page 64, NW Lot 8, section 32, 39, 15.
Thank you. At this time, I'll entertain the approval of the agenda order.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Motion by Peterson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Campion. Any other discussion on the approval of the agenda order? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the agenda order. This time I'll read the meeting procedures. This hearing is being recorded so that we ask only one person speak at a time, please. When your variance appeal request is announced, we ask that whoever is presenting the case, they come to the table, sit in the chair, then you'll present your case to the board. The board may ask additional questions during this process. Once you are done presenting your case and the board has no additional questions, you will return to your seat. The board will then open the public hearing. Those speaking during the public hearing will have a 3-minute time limit. When you are called upon for your public comment, please start by stating your name for the record. Make comments to the Board of Adjustment members only. No questioning or arguments between individuals in the audience. Any written correspondence received will be mentioned at this time as well. Once all the public speaking is concluded, the board will close the public hearing. The board may then follow up with additional questions for the applicant. The board will then deliberate the case amongst themselves and will likely have a verbal decision tonight. The board may table or defer action whenever it concludes that additional evidence is needed or further study is required. If a decision is made tonight, then at the next Board of Adjustment meeting, the board members will sign this decision document. Once that document is filed in the office of the Board of Adjustment, usually within a few days after the board signature, the 30-day appeal limit will start. Any person aggrieved by this decision or any applicant, officer, department, board, or bureau of the county or town may within 30 days after the filing of the decision in the office of the Board of Adjustment commence an action in circuit court seeking a remedy available by certiorari. Public comments. Any general public comments? If not, we can head into variance 2601 Huber to expand the footprint of a structure which is less than 35 feet from the ordinary high watermark.
Good evening, everyone. Definitely. So I'm Mike Huber. I'm here with my wife Tony, and obviously we've got to be. I'm just going to go through a little bit of the history on the property, and I'm kind of going to go through the outline of the Burnett County staff report, and you've already stated why we're here. A little history: we bought the property back in 2003 after the Siren tornado went through, and looked at building a cabin. We contacted the county highway or the county zoning office and asked what our options were, because there was a real nice fieldstone fireplace left on the property that wasn't destroyed in the tornado. And we were told that we could build back the footprint of the cabin that was there previously, which all was in this 35-foot setback. We decided to do that because of the fieldstone fireplace, and we built the cabin in 2003. We went through some other permit applications on the property and things, as the record shows. So I think we've pretty much followed the procedures on everything we've done on the lot. And we're here tonight again to, like I said, ask for a variance to be granted to replace a deck that is on the property now. So it's basically putting a structure, the 3-season porch, in place of the deck that's there. Actually, it's a little bit smaller. The deck that's there is 14 by 14. The porch is going to be 12 by 14. So we have a window that we have to work around, so it stays on the outside wall. I guess that's basically what I want to say is so far, Is there anything else that, I could help you with, that can show you the answer?
Questions from the committee or anything on Mike's up here?
I guess I did have a question. I believe on the staff report. Or on some place, maybe it's on permit, that there was no drawing of this deck done originally on the, when the permit was pulled. And I have a copy of the hand drawing that was turned in by you or by the contractor or whoever, but it does not show a deck on it. Were you aware of that?
I seen that was on the report. That's, yes, correct. And, I guess I'll just tell you a little bit of history. We bought some additional property right next to us, the church campground that was, right to the east of us. It did a lot subdivision. They had 300+ feet of lakeshore. Well, we bought an extra 25 feet, which is documented in the permits, the record here. And with that, so when I applied for the permit, I didn't have the land yet. When I bought the land, then the lot increased to the easterly side. I went through the process with Mr. Flanagan, who was the zoning officer at the time. And per the uniform building code, instead of calling that a deck, it was called a platform, because that, the way the building code stated it, if it wasn't attached to the dwelling that was there, it was considered a platform, or could pass for as a platform, because I could pick it up and physically move it. So Mr. Flanagan and I had a conversation about that, and he said that I didn't need a permit for it. So that's kind of how that shook out. Like I said, I found something in the uniform building code that allowed me to put the deck on there. I think I put that on that fall already, so it's been on there since 2003. That's, I guess, it's not attached to the house or the dwelling. Correct, sir.
And so now it would not become movable anymore.
No. I hope not. I don't want another tornado come through.
Any other questions, committee members? Anything else, Mike, you can think you can add? Like I said, we'll have a public hearing. You got a shot at the end if we come up with something, so. Other than that, if you feel fine, you can get back.
Well, that's fine. Perfect. Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's not there. You got the heat on today.
Spotlights we're gonna put on it.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open up the public hearing for variance 2601 Huber. Any comments from people in the audience?
And just there, it was on the westerly side is where the property was purchased from the church camp. So it's on the side of it.
Yeah, I was thinking that property to the east has been there as long as your place, I think.
Yeah. That's the whole reason the survey was done before was pretty consensus on that side. You see what the green with principles.
Any other public comments from those in attendance? Hearing none, we do have a letter stated March 30th, 2026 from the DNR that's in the packet. I'm gonna try to save my breath and not read it because I can feel my voice already going.
Jason's usually pretty good at summarizing.
Excuse me.
Well, I'll just kind of do their bullet points, unique physical limitations. The applicant must demonstrate that unique physical limitations, or special conditions exist. And then her comment, no unique physical property limitations was provided within the application. Parcel looks very similar in slope and size to the adjacent lot to the east. No harm to public interest. The applicant must demonstrate that the variance will not result in harm or contrary to public interest. What does she have here? The 12 by 14 enclosed porch is proposed to be located 17 feet from the ordinary high water mark, and the entire proposed structure would be located fully within the vegetative buffer zone of Mudhead Lake. Vegetative buffer zone is the area extends from the ordinary high water mark to 35 feet landward. The vegetative buffer zone is maintained or created to protect water quality, fish and wildlife habitat and natural scenic beauty, and to promote the preservation and restoration of native vegetation. Unnecessary hardship, the applicant must demonstrate that if the variance is not granted, an unnecessary hardship exists. Property owner bears the burden of proving unnecessary hardship based on the air photos of the piers that the residence has been used as is for many years. Please note these comments are in regard to shoreline zoning regulation only and do not reflect the typical erosion control, waterway permitting, floodplain zoning, or other department regulations. It's the responsibility of the Board of Adjustment to ensure that the statutory standards for granting of a variance are met. This generally sums up that letter.
Thank you.
Any other letters from town or anything like that? I don't believe there was. Hearing no other correspondence, I will close the public hearing at this time and the board can deliberate amongst ourselves and hopefully come up with a decision. I was along with you, Ed. That's why we like personal testimony on stuff. When I read the paperwork, I thought, well, another classic example of a deck that wasn't zoned but got grandfathered. And Jason noted in his paperwork that it's beyond the 10 years of regulation, so it's been there so the deck can stay as is per regulation. I didn't know any of the information about Mr. Huber's potential conversation with the old zoning director saying that that was an adequate use of that, which it is under that platform existence. I do know enough about that, at least, that, you know, if it's not attached to the house, it's not a structure that it's permanent or whatever. But it is a gray area in how the process goes. When you have something that goes from a platform to now, as we talk about going attached to the house and then throwing a roof on it within that 35 feet, I do have concerns that at 17 feet, that is awful close. I tend to look at the third variance like unnecessary hardship, like that. It's a newer structure, obviously after the tornado on it. It's not an old cabin that was, you know, remodeled or anything like that. It does, I don't know if we've looked at the whole lot, but it's pretty, looking at the parcel map. There's a lot of stuff on that sliver that's down there, but those are the concerns I had when I read through it. That's the only thing that ties me up is that, you know, some of those platforms, but after hearing the testimony that Mike, that it was compliant in the day. And so what we go for is something that could be legal. That platform is now acceptable to have it attached to the house and then throw a roof on it. You know, that's literally the question. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Struggle with the deck so much because it's not hardly viewable from the lake. I know there's a big distinction zoning has between having a deck and having something with a roof on it. It's two very different items there.
Is that included in the impervious, that 40?
That would be for sure.
It is, but I mean, it's calculated even though it wasn't on the plan.
I'm sure Wagner surveying calculated that when they did
Yeah, it was-
impervious.
Yeah, decks and steps are in here.
So the roof would be no different than an impervious
Doesn't make it any
platform.
worse.
Correct.
And it could be lettered, at least for rain control. And that deck would not be. I mean, rebuilt a new one.
So we've got I struggle with the 35 foot. It's kind of been the real sticking point forever is, anything within 35 is a big no-no. You could do some shoreline restoration, but even the back of the porch is within 35 feet. Really, 37.5 foot deep, I think, for restoration, so you couldn't really even do,
Plantings.
yeah, it's almost too close to the water for restoration work.
And
How
the
many-
staff-
Go ahead, Ken.
The staff comments also mentioned that gutters and downspouts added in lieu of the mitigation on the shoreline because there's not enough room, so
To really do it,
where are you gonna have a rain garden?
yeah.
And how would you get, 43%, 42.5% impervious? How many points of mitigation is that?
Well, they're grandfathered into what they're at. That's why they don't have to do anything. Cause when the rule went into place in like 2015, 2016 for impervious, everybody was grandfathered into the amount they had, so.
Okay, so that has nothing to do.
No, that's why they would have to, it's already counted as impervious that they're, so it's not changing that. Cause if it was adding more impervious, then that would have been part of the variance request as well, because you can't, once you're over 30, you can't go anymore.
Is there any consideration for the fact that it appears that the home of that is a high point and it actually flows away from the lake, goes toward the road, I mean, it appears to it. I mean, as far as any room.
It would be half would run to the lake, half would run to
Yeah.
the road. Yeah, quick comment, Mike. I just want to point out to the board that the buildings that are on the property now all have gutters on them, and the water is directed out towards the roadway. The gutter, the new, in this process, if I'm lucky to get the variance, the house is gonna be re-sided and roughed also, and new gutters will be put on it, and water will be directed away from the lake. The way the shoreline has been over the years, when we bought the property with the ice heaves and things that pushed up the embankment, I built a retaining wall to save the shoreline because I could take a long handled shovel and shovel or stick the whole shovel handle backhoe through under the bank because it was being undermined. I built a retaining wall there to support it, so I didn't lose more shoreline. And what I'm getting at is with the ice heave, it's up high enough where it almost looks like a rain garden in my front yard. None of the water that comes off the roof does get to the lake. It's real sandy soil and it all percolates into the ground the way it is right now. My wife and I, since then, we've planted plenty of plantings and things that improve the shoreline, the view from the water, let's say. There wasn't a tree left in the property after the storm. There's probably 35 of them within 75 feet of the water now. So, it's one of the point out some things that we've done. We've been good stewards. I've worked with this type of stuff all my life, so I kind of know what the do's and don'ts are. Try to solve them. I would feel more comfortable with if the porch was on a 35-foot line back.
Where the small deck is, because there's two decks right now, there's a roadside deck and a lakeside deck, kind of. That makes sense?
I think you.
Just for discussion purposes.
You stated with something that, from a consistency standpoint, that's been a benchmark that we do try to stick to, that 35 foot.
Ever since I've been on the board, you've always brought that up
Yep.
at every meeting that was inside. That has always been our benchmark, that we have not allowed anything inside of the 35 structures. You know, we've had houses been moved back, we've had a lot of, I mean, that's my main problem, is that, you know, it's one thing if the deck was built without a permit. Granted, it was a pad, I guess, a movable pad, but now it's not. And it's all inside the 35. And we have had that benchmark, as you say.
I feel that doesn't, you know, disqualify, you know, unnecessary hardship or whatever you would, one of the three meanings there. If the applicant wanted to look at something, it'd be a different deal if he tried to flip it to the backside. I don't think we could put any verbiage in there on this thing, because that changes the dynamic of the rule we're here for, right, Jason?
Well, I mean, the 35-foot line is shown on that survey map, so I don't even you know, unless you were
On
to,
the backside too.
if you were to stagger it, you know, step it back, if that was you don't want it within 35. And so I'm not a builder, you know, I don't know what you do with roof lines and how you tie all those things together and all that stuff.
Third, or 2/3, or 1/3 in and 2/3 of. Even if it was that deck.
No, the five, yeah.
But it's not
underneath the lake side of it at the 35-foot line. Would have to, at the 12 by 14 or whatever size it would push off the backside a little bit.
Right.
It wouldn't be ideal because you wouldn't be missing the patio door access, but at least you're outside the 35.
I could just make a note too that, high water mark juts in there typically where the docks always are, something that's usually what happens there, so you can see that. That part where it juts in a little bit, of course, that's set back further, where if you drew a straight line across the shoreline, it'd be a little bit more square with the building. That's creates a little bit of that issue, so that was something that, work with, would be like a function here too.
It looked like if I put a scale on it, if you held 12 foot right at the 35-foot line. And then if you go towards the road 12 feet. It's gonna hang over about 4 feet.
The backside.
And I think that if. You may take a picture of that, so.
Man, I would have a picture.
Yeah, I do.
Cause I think that is, it does, you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that wouldn't make a difference on the roof lines at all.
It would just be, yeah, just, I mean, if it jogs past a couple feet, it's gonna.
Right, it'll be a little hazy, but it doesn't matter if it's here or there.
Yeah, just put it, just slide it back. X amount of feet.
Yeah.
You wanna see that too?
Cause you know, you're gonna have two valleys coming off of that, so it doesn't matter where it goes.
It's still within the footprint of the original structure. You know, it's like,
I mean,
There's no one
I,
in
nope. Any other questions or concerns or thoughts from the committee?
What do we do now, Jason? Can we open up talks for making a deal to maybe push it to the back, or is that a separate variance application?
Or is that something that would even be considered by Mike and Tony?
Well, I guess I don't know if it's.
What do you want us to do here?
What do I want you to do? I'm not in control of you guys. I mean, the neighbors, you know, I would get concerned about adjusting stuff on that side if the neighbor was here and had concerns like, hey, that's gonna change what I'm thinking, but So I mean, if you wanted to try to grant a variance with some different stipulations, then somebody could always appeal it if they didn't like the decision.
And the owner wouldn't have to do anything. If he didn't like the decision or the variance we granted.
Yeah, if he didn't like the variance, then he wouldn't do the project, or if
You
he
could just rebuild his decks.
lived with it, or he liked, or he could work out the option, then he wouldn't have to come back. It would be approved.
And we could still allow him to rebuild that deck, because it's past 10 years. It needed to be rebuilt.
It's still, I would imagine we'd still do shoreline restoration. As much as they can do with it being 17 feet in the water.
The staff report called for no shoreline.
Well, I think we said a little, whatever we could. Yeah,
Sorry, my bad.
Oh, yeah.
that might not be achievable, work with county for design of the project. Design of a shoreline restoration because of that, and then that's why I suggested gutters and downspouts too to offset, since we couldn't get the buffer depth to work.
Be workable with you guys?
That's been workable for you.
Well, to be quite honest, no, because the opening for coming out of that side of the structure that's there is in that 35-foot, if I move the deck, or if I move the porch, I would have to remodel the whole cabin. Well, couldn't you have
Couldn't you just come out the patio door onto the deck and then into the screen porch? Because we're gonna allow you to rebuild that deck in the front.
It's not connected to the house, technically.
You would, yeah, you would.
You gotta go in and out, in and outside to get.
Yeah, you'd have to go outside, you'd have to go outside to go in the porch.
I'm guessing it's a bedroom. Back forward.
Right, this cabin's 700 square feet, there's not a lot of leeway of changing where you can enter. When I bought the extra property to the west, thank you. It was for the purpose of putting the door where it was. And to have the larger amount of room on that side of the structure that was permitted to be put there. So the whole thing was kind of designed for this in mind when we built it originally. And now that we're aging, it just, we want the 3-season porch for obviously to get away from mosquitoes and everything else you encounter in the summer months. So I guess to answer your question, I don't think we would be interested in building a porch by moving it back there. Okay. So that's the honest answer I can give you.
That's why I asked you a question. So I guess I would,
The only thing I'd like to say is that the property to the east of me has a porch that's within 1 foot of my property.
that would be a whole different thing. What we're doing right now is just this variance right here on the table.
Yep. Yeah.
We don't look at North Sand Lake, we don't look at Clam Lake, we're looking at your project on Woodhead.
Yep. The other setbacks, I guess, around the other side of the building there's nothing, I mean, I'm 15-20 feet away from property lines. Again, it was kind of unique that this building was put there because that's what we were allowed to do to rebuild what was lost in the tornado. And that's what we did. You know, in hindsight, 25 years ago, then we should have knocked down the Fieldstone fireplace and built back farther, but that wasn't, we were allowed to do what we did.
Within the footprint. of the existing building and that, but now the existing building is getting expanded 17 feet from the lake.
Yeah, I don't know where that,
Well, that's just, that's been a long-standing DNR thing. It's not, like I said, I might not necessarily think it's fair either, but that's the rule that we've followed. And that's the scenario, and the reason they grant the same footprint is because of the location, proximity to the lake. You can build much bigger if you go to the 75-foot standard that is the current standard to it. They don't care how big you get on the lake. You know, or from the structure standpoint, but the privilege of being that close to the water is that the footprint stays the same. And so I think we have just it's not a fair circumstance, but an area where a lateral expansion was allowed in through previous zoning, called it a platform that wasn't attached to the house, it's been grandfathered in. But now when we try to make it compliant by attaching it to the house and then throwing a roof on it, I think it exceeds that rule for 35 feet. So I think I'm kind of sold onto my opinion, but it's not like that. Don't mean it's right or fair, but it's what I interpret the rule stated as is. I try not to.
I would. Well, that's why I asked the question, if he's not interested in moving back, the motion would be to deny the variance and allow the rebuilding of the deck. That would be the motion I would make. And then none of the staff report things would be necessary. I mean, we're appointed for a reason here. And we are, as the county goes, we are one of the most lenient Board of Adjustment boards in the state of Wisconsin. Okay. But 35 feet is in stone. When I came to this board, one of the first ones we had, I was told that's just not what we do. And this is way inside the 35 feet. So I would make a motion to deny the variance.
Motion by Peterson, seconded by Campion. Any other discussion on variance 2601 Hubert? If not, all in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Motion carries to deny 2601. At this time, we'll entertain variance 2602 best.
I need to recuse myself in the next two.
You're the best. Go ahead.
Hey, my name is Julie Best and I'm here to ask for a variance to build a garage on our property. We we're looking at a 30-foot by 30-foot garage. And we have reduced that to 26 after consulting with the builders and designers.
Any other thing to share besides what was on?
I know you're incredibly nervous.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So
I don't blame you.
right now you show, or this map shows 30 by 30 square, so what is it?
It'll be.
Yeah, if you got a revised one, that'd be probably good to. have.
2 feet on each side, or we'll shift it west?
4 feet away from the building and
Still the same distance from the road,
in distance from the road.
just getting more space between the house and the garage.
And there will be gutters too.
That's why we're a little late getting here. And then with all the changes, the square footage would be reduced by
Oh, the percentage is going down.
224%, 224 square feet, which would reduce it by about 1%, knocks it down to 18.7%.
Impervious.
You'd still have to do 2 points of mitigation because you're over 15, but so 15 to 20, you do 2 points, no matter if you're 15.1 or 19.9. But
That's not very, you don't need to understand, somebody will.
That's what I got them here for.
It's really not too hard to get to. I'm a builder and we have to do it all the time, it seems like in Sedania. I don't, I mean, really honest for sure. Just mark where if there's any questions, there's a lot of dimensions on there because of the close proximity to the road. It's a very odd situation because it goes from town road and in fact, when this lot was created, it was a private road. So the owner still owned the roadway, but then that got changed as it goes further down the peninsula to only 19.5. In this area, it's closer to your normal one with 33-foot right of way. So the transition is just beyond this property, the next one up. But you can see the one that's even in the, where the more room is, there's other projects even closer yet than what was in there. So it's in as good a position as we can place it there. I guess. So that's the new. The garage that was in here. Do you guys have any more?
I was just asking, there has to be a lot of fill put in there to build that up to meet that platform
Toward the
where
lake.
the parking area is.
I think that probably Jode can answer that question.
We do.
Okay, a little hard of hearing here, so the question is the foundation.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of fill brought in on the backside. Yeah.
So what we propose to do is build basically a above grade basement on it, cross footing. The wall would be approximately 9 feet tall. From bottom grade, it'll come up to above the grade of the approach that's there in this thing. And that area below will become storage. And
Basically,
Yeah,
a
so right
two-story garage.
So that's coming in, so it's all, looks like Jode said, exposed basement wall, so there's really not fill inside of it, but it won't have any chance to get to the lake.
no, it'll be a storage.
Oh, pantry.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's pantry.
That's right. So you got doors right there.
So then you'll have to come on your garage and then lock your house. There's no door.
There is a door on the side, but it's.
Wait, let's see. Okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's existing ramp.
Yeah, and that ramp exists too.
So the parking area doesn't get any smaller.
No.
Because I looked at it and I said, man, we don't like to back out onto the road. Well, if you drive down that road, they're all backing onto the road. Yeah, because there's no room.
There's no. So it's been that way. Since beginning of time.
Because like Mark said, it was a private road, so you could do whatever you wanted at that time with a private road and then turn later. Better draft than you think. It's here. Black and white.
Any other thing that you want to add at this time? I think everything's in the packet that we had and you explained some of the changes here. If we have questions afterwards, we can address that at that moment, or if you think of something you want to say, just raise your hand. So other than that, if you want to find you. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing for variance 2606 Best. Any comments from those in attendance? Any comments? Any comments? Any written correspondence that's not in the?
No correspondence.
Possibly? At this time, I'll close the public hearing for 2602 Best, and the committee will discuss amongst themselves and deliberate to see what we come up with. I do agree, Ed, that's, our backing out. Brad.
You worked with my dad too.
I did. Yeah, that'll get me. As you mentioned, that road is, we've been on multiple times over the years, at least have, we do have a major concern for backing out and making sure that we're not, when we can, not back out into the street. But I turned around 3 times, I'm not looking at it, and I think I went to 4 different houses to turn around at that section there, so. To me, if the variance is close and it meets the current parking or whatever, it's consistent with the neighborhood, so it ain't like it's a sore thumb. It's like you stop one and there's 4 around them. You're not gaining any safety factor, in my opinion, from saying that we're gonna start stopping anymore when, 98% of them are all in the same culture.
And the parking lot when you're backing over there. I know you would come over there.
We always say too that we need a garage over it.
Yep, especially as they get older, it's always been on this board, from what I understand, that the garages were almost something that people need to have in our climate.
Any other questions or concerns from the committee? Not, is there a motion you made or?
I make a motion that we accept variance. 2602, to build a garage. And we will have, we'll need 2 points of mitigation for increasing the impervious area, 19.8%. No human habitation will be allowed in this garage. A land use permit will be obtained for the garage prior to construction and follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements.
I think you'd want to add one more thing to say that the garage would be 26 by 26. Yep.
And
Thank
the
you,
garage
Jason.
size will be 26 by 26 feet.
I would second that.
Motion by Schmidt, seconded by Daniels. Any discussion on variance 2602? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve variance 2602. At this time, we will open up the hearing to variance 2603, Simonson. You come on up. Hi.
Good afternoon.
My name is Chad Simonson, and this is a request for proposed building shed, home barn, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's just in a section of the back property on our land that we own since 2022. Request for this is due to, I hope everybody has seen the land, but it has a very large walking easement on it, very large. And it's basically squished the property to where we just don't have any other area to put it. So the request is to reduce the size of the building.
Basically, what we got going on is you have to have a 40-foot wetland setback.
Right.
Yep, so filling 40 feet around a building, that's 80 feet of fill outside of, 60-foot building, all of a sudden, or whatever size, that's a lot of fill, so it's requested just to reduce that setback.
And have it build it back as far as we can possibly go on the property to try to keep it even further from the lake, even though it's wetland. I know it's different, but that is the reason for this request.
No hardest piece of property.
Okay.
I hear a lot of people, on, yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't hear that, Dan.
It's one of the hardest pieces of property in the plane.
I was driving down there, my GPS was all over the.
Oh, yeah.
I luckily I quit using that because I did that too many times. Yeah.
I
thought it was easy.
I called Wagner
Yeah.
to get directions.
Really? Wow. Yeah, I
It's better.
That's probably good,
Be good for you.
unless you need an ambulance.
Great, yeah.
Hmm? I don't know, that's why cool. I used to think that.
I don't have any.
And there's the living quarters in this, no living quarters. Try to keep things nice and tidy.
Mark, there are two things that happen if we, when the put one house in there, then we get to put in the requirements that are greater if you put in the beyond and so forth, so. And the request is really, he's asking to fill less for more. The county setback is 40, the state setback is 0. That's one reason that the DNR will allow you the permits. Washburn County is 25. Every county has their own standards, so some of the setbacks on that are not uniform statewide either. And so he needs to build just to make sure he's above the floodplain and wide enough to protect his building, not having the 15-foot requirement that's required for normal building structures or inhabitable building structures.
Thanks, Mark.
Anything else, Chad, you wanna mention at this time? If not, you can.
Thank you.
This time I'll open up the public hearing for 2606 Simonson. Any comments from those in attendance? Any comments? Any written and or emailed things that we?
There was a letter from the town of Siren, basically, yeah.
Telling us we're good to go with our, what we think.
Further decision in committee discussion.
That's all there is.
And did this one already have wetland fill permit from Indiana in the whole thing?
Yes, it already has a wetland fill permit, yep.
So they signed off on,
The one stuff in front.
that's the stuff in front.
Well, I think he has a wetland fill permit that gives you like 10,000 or something square feet, so he can make the. Yeah, so he can make the house and the garage work underneath that 10,000.
Oh.
Cause otherwise it would have kicked in a different DNR permit if he went over that 10,000 square feet of fill.
What I thought was interesting was that big old red oak that's right by the thing. They don't usually grow in wetlands, but I'm not gonna say it's not a, it's a wetland. I'm not gonna-
Yeah, it was staying.
Yeah, it was a wetland delineator too. That was, so it wasn't just, zoning staff or whatever. That was a wetland delineator that delineated that all as wetland.
But they don't take wetlands very well, red oaks.
No, I know they, maybe that's just.
That's why it's
non-wetland.
non-wetland species, yeah. There's, I've read that delineation book once, so that's. Hearing no other public comments, we will close the public hearing on 2603 and deliberate amongst ourselves. That was just one of the things I had, like I said, looking at where the building is in their lot. The DNR already said with Phil, that makes perfect good sense to me. I was just curious more about the house thing, but that was just addressed, because when we turned around up there, I'm like, what are they doing up front? They're getting a permit in the back. We haven't seen the, that's a different story. We don't need to worry about that, so.
Taking into consideration all that,
Correct. Absolutely.
So I don't have any further questions. This one, everything seemed to be addressed in the packet. It's the three criteria to me.
I'd make a motion then to approve variance 2603, Simonson. One, land use permit be obtained prior to construction. Requirements, follow DNR wetland requirements and follow local county, state and federal requirements for this activity.
I have a motion by Daniels. Thanks, Brad.
Seconded by Ed.
Do I have a second? Did you say?
I second it.
Kathy said.
Schmidt, seconded by Schmidt. Any other discussion on 2603 If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve variance 2603 Simonson. You have your variance, thank you.
We're sitting in here the whole time. Did you hear the draft?
Yeah, I heard it. I'll get you back.
At this time, we can hear variance 2604. Weiss? Wise? I'm not very, sorry.
They make you go?
Yeah. Good practice, right?
That's good practice.
I'm just with Prime Companies. I'm representing the property owner Andy Weiss on the variance for building dwelling. We're requesting smaller setbacks due to the slope of this site. There has been other variances approved specifically for garages in this case. But there's an extremely steep drop off on this particular property. Everything is pretty well explained in our application. Even the top of slope that's marked on the survey is actually farther back than the setback that we're asking for, and that's where it drastically drops off. So we're still gonna need to deal with the slope, but if we meet the 66-foot setback, it's a severe drop off on that property, and the excavating involved and the disturbance on the slope it's massive. In fact, to get down there with the amount of space we have between the 66-foot setback and the 75-foot high water mark, we're getting really close to being able to work around that backside with everything that needs to be done. So we're requesting a 30-foot setback in alignment with what some of the garages have also been approved for this dwelling. And the dwelling does have a garage. We try to make it as skinny and long as possible to meet the property, but yeah.
Anything else you want to share that's not in the packet? You clarified what you probably, if not, we can come back after.
Yeah, no problem, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll open up hearing 2604. Wise. Any comments from those in attendance? Hearing none, any written and or emailed correspondence that showed in late that we may want to address? Hearing no other comments, and that I will at this time close the public hearing 2604. Nice. And committee can talk amongst themselves. So this is, I believe, is the one, I don't have the paper with me, but yeah, they had a camper on site. We had a couple violations on that, and then they're chosen to, in a sense, resolve that issue by moving a permanent structure to the facility. The camper wouldn't be needed, so pretty much.
Yeah, looks like, yeah.
Sums up the situation, which.
Is it the same owner? They got the campers and.
Yes.
With the violations, Jason, was there any fines or fees or anything like that? It's just stating, hey, you're in violation of the code,
Remove the item.
things like that. Yep. Yeah, I was just curious, cause that's a different story if it's like a back pay thing or anything like that, in my mind, how we interpret. I look at that from the same perspective. The county has that rule to try to encourage building, literally. And hopefully this is the applicant that had it that's able to build it and continue to stay there to be compliant. And that's, to me, meets the intent of the rule and the code that was there and the statutes that were going on. So, we've done probably, I gotta believe, at least in my tenure here, this is probably the 5th or 7th parcel on that real steep thing over the years. There's clay. I know there's at least 4 or 5 I remember going down there.
It's 4.
Yeah. And that is definitely a unique lot characteristic there. I think we had one last year that was talking about the right of way too. That was because it's like, we understand that the right of way is there to protect the road ingress, egress, whatever you want to call it. But they're not gonna move it towards the lake. Has been our assumption over the previous point.
Oh, they were too, they're.
Yeah.
They're just to the west.
Yep, so, granting an easement within the road right away, and that is the right of way is there to protect the ability of the road to wiggle in of a need, and as a state highway, I don't think that we're talking about a 25 or 50-year problem where it would ever be moving, so.
Well, they would move, they would move way.
Correct, and if it was gonna get, I don't see it as an issue, so.
And there's plenty of room, you're not backing out onto Highway 70.
Yeah, the driveway design that comes in is, you
I
know.
mean, the garage next door is gonna be closer by, what, 8 or 9 feet? And then if you go down the road, there's a bunch of them that are closer, going to the west.
I mean, house is 4 feet wide, so it's not like it's a 50-foot house.
Right.
It's kind of a secondary thing, Jason, but when these guys apply, do they already have their architects and stuff, the paperwork with them, or do they talk to you about like, hey, I want a variance and stuff, because.
I usually tell people to ask for what they want. So.
Correct, but what I'm saying is like, when I've read some of these and we get a lot of a certain brand of architecture firm, which is understandable local, but when we get more third parties that from the Twin Cities or Superior or Rice Lake, I find it really beneficial in these cases if they can do those two comparables to the east or west. Because you can see that front, like we're talking about where the front garages line up, and that becomes really beneficial to us to look at that community character versus being out there. To see that where this lot is built, the other two are within that same right of way distance from a judge point. And I know, I give you credit for doing a lot, you know, kind of that maybe has just been part of what the deal is, but I was curious if you could maybe try to encourage that in the plans. That they could just kind of show comparables in these, because sometimes we draw to that as a reference point, saying, okay, this one house sticks out 15 feet past all the rest in the thing, and they're all compliant in this buffer zone that's mediocre, but it's kind of a dinosaur, and this was just the one house on the.
Yeah, this is a surveyor that's new to
Correct.
doing work down here, so I'll try to.
I just don't know if there's
Remember
even
that,
a
yeah.
point in the thing, like if you could provide comparable, or you don't.
Well, we have a fine line there because we say a variance stands on its own merits and we shouldn't be
No.
looking at the neighborhood characteristics, because if it's a neighborhood issue, then we should change the ordinance.
So are
and
these,
not have them go through variance.
are these certified site maps that are done on the other ones? Cause then we could pull up it should be at the county then, right?
Well, typically they're not as built though, so they're not showing what stuff is on as usual.
This is a sad, I hate to say it, but if I don't say it now, I'll forget. It would just be something that like we could try, if you catch an applicant coming in and saying they're about to hire an architect or something, if they have the ability to throw the stuff on there, it could be, it might help when you're talking about how far comparative to other properties.
Some of the stuff's on that aerial too.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I put the aerials in there so you can kind of see the character, but it is kind of hard to tell where this is in relation to the garage on the aerial.
There's been
That's nice.
properties that have had variances in the past. That's public record, so we can refer to that.
Sorry to sidetrack, but it was just a train of thought for something that we do. Maybe it could help down the road to some other applicant or something like that, but. I don't have any further questions on 26 so far.
604 wise.
Motion by Campion, do I have a second?
Justin, you want the comments in there?
Yeah.
Stipulations, land use permit to be obtained for the dwelling prior to construction. Follow all local, county, state, and federal requirements for this activity.
Seconded by Daniels. All in favor of any other discussion on 2604 ways? With the two conditions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve variance 2604 ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Tammy.
So we don't have anything to sign because you guys
Stay right.
so you can adjourn or whatever you do.
Are you gonna have them delivered to our house?
No, hand them to your.
Thank you guys for, good to see you again, another season.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, mileage from you guys. 64.